Hi, my name is Caitlin Stevens, and for this project, my topic is juvenile justice programs and policies. So to start, just a little bit about juvenile justice systems. Juvenile justice is the system that minors go through when they encounter the law. This justice system is separate from the courts that try adults. They are tried as minors instead of as adults in most cases. Each year, more than 2 million minors come in contact with the juvenile justice system here in the US. And in 2018, about 1 in 25 juvenile court cases involved children under the age of 12. And like any other system, it definitely has its issues and concerns that are important to identify and address. Things like not having enough resources and staffing to run quality rehabilitation programs and due process rights not being fully enforced. So for the first article I read, I'm going to go over some of the main points. This article mainly discusses the policies resulting from the juvenile accountability movement, which comes from the perspective that individuals are responsible for their behaviors and should be held accountable for their actions, which in the context of the juvenile system means things like longer sentences and harsher punishments. The article points out that when the individual is seen as accountable for their actions, it does not take into account the effects of the system on the individual's life chances, opportunities, and access to resources. Individual accountability does not hold the system accountable for its ability to effectively serve the population. In recent years, there has been some tensions around juvenile justice policies and how they should serve the population, and also how minors in the justice system should be punished and treated. Some people believe in a punishment perspective, which usually aligns with believing that the individual should be held accountable. Others believe in a rehabilitation perspective, where they recognize that most crime occurs as a result of the system failing an individual, and that they can become rehabilitated by providing new opportunities for obtaining essential life skills and other resources. The article also points out that we do not know if the policies associated with the juvenile accountability movement are effective in reducing criminal activity and recidivism in youth. And we also don't know if they've improved the actual functioning of the court system and its inner workings. There is a lack of scientific research and evidence backing up the implementation and increased funding for juvenile accountability programs. We do not know if these programs have had any effect on improving the juvenile justice system. So to kind of summarize what the article talked about, this article's analysis of juvenile accountability programs and policies has brought more questions than answers about their effectiveness and about the current functioning of the juvenile justice system. There's also a lack of data collected on the daily processes of the juvenile justice system that would be needed to determine its effectiveness. And this could be the result of not having enough staff and resources to manage the high caseloads. So for the second article, here are some of the main takeaways. This article discusses the overrepresentation of Black youth within the juvenile justice system. Overrepresentation includes both racial disparity and racial disproportionality, which is caused by biases, including both conscious or unconscious biases relating to race. The article talks about how this racial gap does not just start with the justice system, but can go back even further to school experiences for Black youth. When individuals who act on their personal racial biases are in positions of power, they can have a negative effect on Black populations and contribute significantly to the overrepresentation that is then seen later within the juvenile justice system. This article, unlike the previous one, comes from more of a system accountability perspective, where the system is seen as ineffective and should be held responsible in order to be changed to better serve the population. They see criminal behavior as a product of the environment and system failing the individual. The author discusses how they believe that by implementing new policies, overrepresentation of Black youth in the juvenile justice system can be improved. It is an issue that can be solved by creating new policies and changing the system. So here are just some things to think about when comparing these two perspectives on juvenile justice. Things like who should be held accountable, and should the focus of juvenile justice policies be more towards public protection and having stronger punishments for criminals, or should it focus more on the rehabilitation of youth who are trapped in an environment and system that they cannot control and that fosters criminal behavior as one of the only options? These are just some things to consider when looking at current juvenile justice policies and determining how we should proceed into the future. So the perspectives that I discussed earlier for the second article align with a few of the NASW Code of Ethics principles. This article identifies some of the issues that exist within the juvenile justice system, like overrepresentation of Black youth, and proposes potential policy ideas that would be able to solve these problems, like how they proposed the implementation of minimum age, a national minimum age for the juvenile justice system. This aligns with the ethical principles like social workers challenge social injustice, and social workers' primary goal is to help people in need and to address social problems. By challenging social injustices within a system and helping those who are in need of assistance, these perspectives align with the Code of Ethics for being a social worker. All right, and then here is my discussion question about juvenile justice programs. Do you believe it would be more beneficial to approach juvenile justice issues from an individual accountability perspective, where the individual is responsible for their actions and must change to fit within the system, or more from a perspective of systemic change, where the problems are rooted within the system and it needs to change and reform in order to better serve the individuals? And these are my sources that I used for my presentation, and these are the two sources for the articles. Thank you.